So I'm gonna pull this stand. And also, this is interactive because I like to hear from people. You guys are the experts on you. I'm just giving some tips. Okay. So, for me, the holiday season has always been a time of happiness for the most part because people's spirits are different. Decorations are everywhere. Sometimes people just seem nicer in general during the holiday season. So it's always been kind of pleasant for me. I've had pretty um, good memories throughout my whole holiday seasons. I've had some family losses that have made it different, like losing grandma or an aunt. But for the most part, holiday transition season is the time that I look forward to. And even though um, I guess mostly what we'll be talking about is kind of centered around Thanksgiving and Christmas, um, the entire season would or should include Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Day up until Valentine's Day. Kind of like those big holidays all in those span of a few months. So, when you think about um, the term or just the phrase surviving the holidays, what comes to mind for you guys? You can just yell it out. Thriving. It's a good word. Money. Yes, money, shopping, memories. Yes. Different family personalities. Absolutely. Traditions. Okay. You think about death. Oh, as a pastor. Right. Okay. Next slide. So, what makes the holidays tough? Maybe from what you've experienced or from people that you know that have gone through something. What might make it tough in general? Lack of someone presence. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you experience a loss sometimes in the family, or just now you trying to fill the shoes of someone who wasn't there before, that can also bring about various emotions, some stress, um, some frustration, but then also maybe some excitement, various feelings that may happen as a result of that. Um, I know someone mentioned money before, but money can also be a tough situation during the holidays. If you have children who have a long list of items that they want, or I know growing up for me, maybe a Barbie doll or something. Now, kids want the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is like $1,500. you know, kids, I said kids these days want the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is like $1,400, right? Right, and that's what's on the lists these days for the item. That's one item, right? That's one item, right? That's right. And so finances, that can be just a tough time if you have more than one child. You have your normal financial obligations, but in the spirit of the holidays, sometimes um, the external uh, pressures or what you might see might want you to make the holidays great for a family member, for your children, or even maybe like some people have the personal thing of, well, I want to give my kids everything I didn't have. And sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse, right? Because then you might go out of the way buying an iPhone 11 Pro Max for $1,500. Right, right. So that's another, that's actually a big one, finances. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some people lose their employment around the holidays. Right, that too. We have more than one child, but then right, if you lose your job, you know what do you have? How do you kind of navigate that? You know that space of this is supposed to be joyful season, but now you're figuring out I need to find a new job. Is anyone going to hire me in the holiday season right now? Because people don't really work. You know, some people don't really work during the holiday season because it's a more lax environment. So a lot of things can come as a result of that. Any other why the holidays are tough? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually something that we'll talk about too a little later. But he was saying that there's, you know, some person in the church who's asking for help during the holiday season to help sponsor families. A lot of churches do that. They help sponsor families, or even in the community. That happens as well. Hmm. Yep, loneliness. Loneliness is a big one. Um, Either, like my mom was saying, growing up a lot around a lot of family members or friends, and when you're older, sometimes if you're outliving those around you, holidays mean something different for you. Or maybe even for a young person who's maybe relocated and found a new job in Texas, and they're spending the holidays out there by themselves for the first time. So loneliness can take different forms, but definitely during the holidays when people are kind of pushed to spend time with family and friends and you don't have that, loneliness kind of seems to beam down on you during that time. Anything else about why holidays are tough before we move forward? Illnesses, illnesses, dealing with illnesses. I was actually, when doing some research, there was a whole article on surviving the holidays as a diabetic because if that's a huge, you know, health restriction for you. You go around your family and you see everyone piling up their plate, and this year you can't have the famous whatever sweet dish, or you try to sneak it and you know you shouldn't, type of thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Alrighty. So I'm gonna move through kind of two things next, um, about kind of similar to what we've been talking about, and then I'm gonna provide you with some practical kind of like tips on how you can survive the holidays. So next slide, emotional ambushes. So what comes to your mind when you think of this term? Yes, the media. Right, right. So she was saying so sometimes the media they might portray people, families with gifts under the tree, people shopping, kind of being uplifted and joyful, and that's not the reality for everyone. Hallmark movies. Hallmark movies. Hallmark movies sell dreams to people. Yes, sell dreams.
That thing on there, and then people can use it. Like if somebody come back and
Anyone else, when you hear the term emotional ambush? Hmm. Right. That's a good one. Feelings come rushing in. Maybe you weren't prepared to experience, and they just kind of hit you. They ambush you, right? They hop out. Tamika?
um, put it in your
Now,
mouth.
now kind of piggyback what Miss Darlene said about the emotions. Um, your mood change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when your daily, you get used to it, becomes like the new norm, and you don't know, you can't explain why you feel this way. And then it all hits you. Okay, the holidays here, so when their birthdays coming around, you kind of shut down and just
Mm-hmm.
cry and just go through that ball of emotions from nowhere. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Mr. EJ.
I think during the holidays, it brings back memories of someone you lost,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that right there is very hard
Yeah.
emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah. So emotional ambush in the actual definition, if we want to give it one, it's just being flooded by negative emotions. Um, Whatever situations kind of provoke that for you. So a lot of times during the holidays, um, maybe you're going shopping and you see a Redskins sweater, and you're like, look, emotional ambush got y'all feeling all kinds of ways that I said Redskins. I mentioned Redskins and I got all these reactions, right? So right. So you go and you see a Redskins jersey. You're like, I had that one cousin who loved the Redskins. He was the only one at Thanksgiving going hard, and he happened to pass away. But immediately you see that jersey and you're like flooded with emotions. Came out of nowhere. But the seasons bring that out for you. The seasons bring. And I'm sure now, when you guys go into the store and see a Redskins jersey, you'll remember this conversation. Oh man. So the thing also about emotional ambushes is that they can happen at any time. They can happen at any time. And sometimes they come about because we have not taken the time to deal with any emotions that we currently are experiencing. Might not be on the conscious level, right? Something you can talk about, you can acknowledge, but it might be something that you've kind of never dealt with. And so as a result, um, you react. Uh, and that's one thing that I can say about emotions is if you do not deal with an emotion of some sort, emotions are going to come out regardless. You can't control that. So they can come out tears, anger, frustration, anything. They always say anger is not a primary emotion. So there's something called primary and secondary emotions. Anger is not a primary emotion. Anger is the result of something else. So that's all that to say that if sometimes you don't deal with an emotion, either positive or negative, um, they can come out and jump out and ambush you. And during the holidays, sometimes it can be sadness.
Walk through the door, and your dad says something stupid to me, and I get angry. So you saying that was because I said something you did before? We were just triggered by the fact that he said something stupid.
Okay, so we today we're talking about surviving the holidays,
Okay.
but But to touch on that for a second, right? Because I did say it. So it's important to know. So you walk in, he say something that made you upset. You resulted in anger. Something. So are you feeling angry because maybe you were embarrassed? Or are you feeling disappointed? Were you feeling frustrated? All of those, there are possibly other reasons. But because he walked in the door and said something, you might have just been so frustrated from a long conversation, you snap anger, right? And it's like, what you so angry for? Right? But if you're not taking the time to discuss or communicate about what possibly you are experiencing, anger is going to come out. And so I don't want to get into that. I don't know why you asked that question. But a lot of times when we think about youth and young people they're just so angry, they're just so upset. Some of them have a lot to be angry about, and it's an emotion that comes out because they have other stuff happening that they haven't dealt with. All right. Um, any questions before we continue? Yes. Thank you.
Just kind of a comment on what you're saying. I think it's important also for us to be able to recognize when someone is experiencing an emotional ambush, because we have to be emotionally stable so
Mhm.
that we don't respond to them in a way that's going to continue to enhance their anger or their emotion, so
Yes.
it's like we all have to try to be emotionally stable or emotionally healthy,
Yes.
so that that person, if they pop off on you, it's instead of it's, hey, why are you getting mad at me, it's like, hey, whoa, what's going
Mhm.
on? Let's
Mhm.
talk about it. Why are you angry? So
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. I like how you said emotionally healthy. It's a goal that we all should kind of strive for. Just being aware of our emotions and also being aware of other people' emotions. Um, there's something that I like to say for me personally, I really can't get mad at people because I'm constantly thinking about what is it that led that person to react that way to me. So I walk around most of the time trying not to carry anything because I don't know what that person went through and I'm not trying to put it on me, whatever it was. But that's me striving to be emotionally healthy, right? Some things will make you mad, no doubt. But it's also important to think about the other person and what could happen. Could have nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just important to try and remember that. Because it's easy. Oh, it's easy to snap right back. That's our baseline, right? You jump at me, I'm jumping at you. I'm not thinking about what you're going through. But but if we strive to be emotionally healthy and take a second and think about the other person, it can make a difference. Yes.
As I'm trying to be emotionally healthy, when somebody is being emotionally ambushed, whether I want to say in a more extreme way, because I'm preparing myself
Hmm.
for an extreme way of emotional ambushes.
Hmm.
Um, how can I make it so that I don't take on that person's experience without making it seem that I don't care or that I'm being insensitive? When the fact is, I'm not taking that on.
Yeah.
That's your moment.
Yeah. I think so. The first thing, um, this is just like general. This is not like specific, but I always first ask to think back to think back to yourself about like what is making you upset or what is making you angry, what is making you have a reaction to whatever is happening, right? Um, and then that helps you to have some level of awareness. Okay, this is what's going on with me, and because now I can know that and kind of accept that. Um, Now, what's going on with the other person, and trying to um, have like open communication about what they may be experiencing. Um, this is ideal situation as well, right? Because it's people have all different types of emotions. So in short, because this could go really deep, but in short, think about your feelings, how you're reacting to the situation, why you're reacting to that situation. Try to have open communication, and then sometimes when not trying to take on someone else's, it's about trying to establish some sort of healthy boundaries, right? So trying to let the person know that I'm here for you, I'm listening to you, but I'm only capable of taking on this much or doing this much. I can't take on everything because I won't be emotionally healthy. Um, so sorry. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So and that's it, of course it can come off as rude. Like you're not, you don't care. But something that I try to encourage people to do is you have to take care of yourself, right? You have to take care of yourself because other people won't take care of you like how you can take care of yourself. And that's something that you have to kind of get to a level of confidence of to kind of be able to communicate that. And it doesn't have to be harsh, but it's definitely something that's worth communicating because you will suffer because you are concerned about it coming off how it comes off to someone. Um, okay, sorry, but that's a whole nother conversation. Like I have so many thoughts, so I'm trying to focus on this. But yes, sorry if that helped. I don't know. There was a lot of thoughts happening, but I can always answer to offline.
We as Christians, we can't leave that aspect of our character out and or our response to how people are dealing with emotional ambushes because have to have we have to be very mindful of the condition that exists outside of Christ in these people's lives if they are not Christians. Because we got a power within us that enables us to respond differently if we allow it to. So we have to consider that in our response to people at all times, because um, it's a lot of stuff that people don't went through in the past that I mean way back there that still impacts them today. So we have to consider once again. Someone said about the kind of uh, things that we don't know about that people are experiencing because it can really mess you up. And if you don't respond appropriately, you just mess them up even more.
Hmm. And I like to look at like, well, personally, like my Christianity and my faith, that's what guides my moral compass, right? That's what I believe makes me a good person, and that's how I makes it impacts how I respond to people. That's for me. That's how I view that. I do think that it's kind of what drives my responses and can be for all of us in general. Our responses to try and do it in love, right? We're human. We have real feelings, real things that happen in the day to day, but striving to say things and do things in love. Yeah.
I was just piggybacking on Tiff was saying that it can come out as rude because I know a few years ago when my sister died, it was during the holiday season, and all family members are coming into town, and I was like, I don't want anybody at home because you kept telling me I have to take care of myself. And because besides the fact you're grieving, then if you have a whole bunch of family at your house, they're expecting to take care of them, feed them, do all of that stuff. And I said, it was just too much. And one of my sisters had said to me, well, isn't that selfish as a Christian? And I was like, no, because when daddy died, I did it and I was just so tired after everyone left. So and I can actually say like going through the grieving period and everything, but because I choose not to have the house filled with a whole lot of people, I was able to take care of myself better and grieve better.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. Next slide. So making a plan. So part of dealing with emotional ambushes, um, as best as possible, is to make a plan about how you can kind of navigate them, or what you can do beforehand, um, because you know they may come. Um, so, um, the first thing that I like to think about when preparing beforehand is that if you are ever ambushed with something, or if you are dealing with something that has caused some sort of emotional reaction for you, if there is someone that you can talk to, a friend or a family member, that's always my first go to. So you don't have to say it out loud, but I want you guys to kind of take a moment. The ideal is to have at least three people, right? But life is life. We may not have three close people that we can call and talk to. But just take a moment and kind of think about maybe who are the three people that I would talk to if I was feeling some sort of reaction or ambushed of some sort. Right? Um, so for me, I like to think that I could call my parents.
All right.
They're about to get switched to number three on the list. So that's just like a natural response for me, right? I have my parents, I have friends, I have loved ones, I have all those things. But sometimes we may not have that, or we may think, well, I don't want to call this person because they got a lot going on. I don't need to be another person adding to that, right? So then if you don't have that support, that external support that you can't think of, or praise God if you do have that, then you need to think about, or it's important to think about, I need to find an outlet of some sort in the form of a person. So that might be um, a pastor at the church. That might be a professional mental health counselor person whose job is to listen. Um, so that's the first thing to help prepare, to help communicate, to help get those feelings out. So think about a person. If you have that person identified, great. If not, um, seek out some external resources. Um, sorry. Mhm.
Yes.
I appreciate what you're saying. What you just said for this time of the year. Um, if we taught our members how to listen to a person and then direct them to help, see, listening itself can be helpful to a person, but I shouldn't take on their problem. That's the difference. And I think what you're doing, man, this is tremendous. If we could have a session where we teach our members how to listen without taking on the problem and then directing them to the right help, I think that would be of a great benefit during this time of the season.
Listening is a skill, to be honest. It is a skill. In my training, I was taught active listening, what that looks like, what cues I should give. Like, some people naturally have the ability to do that, right? But some people, they don't for various reasons. Some people are more like, well, let me help you by telling you how I got through it. That's another amazing thing that might work for some people, but taking the time back to listen and then not take on somebody else's, not feel like you are responsible for someone else's stuff. Some people honestly just want you to listen. And if you don't know what to say, like, well, I'm here. I'm here. I'm hearing what you're saying. And if you ever need me to listen again, that's what I'm here for. And then some people will be like, well, I want some advice now. I just told you everything. And then that's your cue to maybe give something. But just listen. Just listen. Hmm. That'll preach. Yeah. Um, uh, also, so face the holidays in your way and in your time, right? When people who are going through a loss during the holidays, sometimes people can rush your process. Like, well, your cousin died 2 years ago. why aren't you coming to Thanksgiving? That has nothing to do with that person, right? Don't let anyone rush your process and your time. Um, maybe for you, you have decided to redo how you do the holiday, right? It doesn't have to be the traditional sense. Maybe you decide, I'm going on a cruise, if that's within your means, and that's how I want to do the holiday. So do the holiday in your way, in your time, right? Your job, if you work or if you have your business, you set aside, or they set aside time for you to have a day off. They didn't say what you need to do with your day off. No one said what you need to do with your day off. Use the holiday and celebrate it in your way and in your time. Um, another way to kind of prepare beforehand about dealing with the possible emotional ambushes that this season may bring is beforehand spend time thinking about the differences the holidays will bring, so before they come. So we have a good couple weeks, not good, like 2 weeks before holiday season starts coming, right? So now is a good time to kind of think, what's going to be different this year? Your mind. Hello? Prepare your mind beforehand. So like I was saying before with emotional ambushes, if it's some if it's something that you've never dealt with, it will be catch you by surprise, right? But if it's something that you have thought about before, it may still catch you by surprise, but your brain has a reference to go to because you've already thought about it. So it's kind of like, think about what's going to be different this year. Is it going to be at someone else's house? Is it going to be warmer? Is this person not going to be there? What does that mean for me this year? Is my routine different? It's better to think, if your plan was to pick up such and such every Christmas and you're not doing it this year, think about that beforehand. Just think about what that day will look like for you, or those days, or the season will look like for you. Um, maybe financially, Chris holiday season will be tougher this year because you started a different job in the summer and it's paying you less. It's a good time to start thinking about that now. If you were planning on maybe doing, your kids are expecting the same Christmas, maybe, but things are different. So it's good to start doing that now instead of getting to the point, and having to deal with it and being ambushed by whatever emotions that brings during that time. Um, and then, lastly, before going on, um, also in your thinking, it's good to incorporate new things. So beforehand, when you're kind of processing what the holidays will bring, also use that time to think about what's something new I can add to this holiday season. So I know last year, personally for me, I think I was telling my mom, maybe, I was like, holidays aren't the same now that you're like older and adult versus when you were a kid. And I was like, man, we need to do something different because my cousins and I, it doesn't feel the same, right? We need to do something different. So I was like, okay, this last year I was like, okay, we'll do Secret Santa because it's something we've never done before in my family. We had another tradition of like certain family members buying certain family members gifts because we have like a big family. But I was like, no, this year, like all my cousins were grown, we're working. We can figure something out. So I introduced Secret Santa, something simple, but it was good. And a lot of family members like this. Some family members were like, I didn't get asked about it. So this year, now I know, to open it up to more people. But that's just something small. So when thinking about your holidays, think about what's something new I can incorporate into the family season. Yes.
I think that was another thing that we should uh, try to consider is as you get older, the way you celebrate and recognize holidays differ,
Hmm.
uh, even toward your children as they get older. Their understanding of holidays is just a little bit uh, different too. They take on uh, the way they receive holidays different, just like we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, absolutely. Yes. Right here.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a cousin who had a massive stroke, and prior to that, he was always very active, especially in the community and helping others. So one of the things that he and his wife does for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, they go out and they volunteer their time, and that makes it a real joy for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Volunteering, that's actually going to be one of my tips in the next section. But another thing that I want to say, um, you can make a plan and you can prepare, right? That's ideal. That's the best practice. But also accepting the difficulty that this time of year will bring, right? Part of the process is also accepting that it's going to be different. This holiday season is going to be different. It's going to be a change. Um, but it is a season, right? And seasons do pass. So it's important to also go through the process. Any feeling that you are feeling, just because you're ambushed doesn't mean you should try to push it out the way and not deal with it. Go through the feeling because it came up for a reason. Go through it, process it as best as you can. Don't avoid it, but like a holiday season, the season of your feelings will also pass. Um, okay, next slide, please. So I'm just gonna go through, I think I have about 10 just practical suggestions of surviving the holidays. Um, and I wanna hear from you guys too if there's anything else that you can think of that I didn't say. But the first kind of suggestion is getting out whole old home videos or looking at pictures. Yes, you may get emotional, but it also might be comforting to see your loved ones on a screen. So that's always a good thing to do. Pictures, videos, anything that brings back memories, it's a good thing to do. Um, Number two, after a loss, it can be hard to part with your loved one's belongings. However, the holidays present the perfect opportunity to give away some of these things. Um, so I know for some people, they may they're tied emotionally maybe to some belongings of family members. You might have a bunch of stuff. It's okay to give it away. What's was some important to you may become important to someone else. Create a special place for people to write down memories. So that's just something that you can do with your family. This is also maybe creating something new. Maybe make a scrapbook of some of those old photos you pulled out. Maybe write down, spend time writing down some memories that you might have had with a person that's not there, or let's say, like I know in the beginning, Miss Cleo gave an example of her children having to go different places for the holidays. It might be a good opportunity if you or someone else is in that situation to spend time writing down some of the memories that you might have had with your children or loved ones, spending time kind of reflecting on it, and also kind of talking about it and dealing with it um, during that holiday time. So it's not something that's kind of disregarded. Number four, when you see a gift your loved one would have liked, go ahead and buy it. So I was saying before, buy it. It's okay to buy it, but give it, donate it, or give it to someone as a gift. That's also a part of the process. Volunteering your time to help others in need. That's a great one. Helping someone else will always make yourself feel better. So, volunteering your time, awesome way. There are so many different ways to help during the holiday season. Google, and I am sure you can find something to do. Um, Take the trip you have been planning or dreaming about. Um, so this is also making the holidays yours. Doesn't have to be the traditional expectation Hallmark movie um, dream. It can be something small. If you have the means, do something big. If you don't have the means, maybe decide I'm gonna just go up maybe to Great Falls, or I'm gonna go somewhere within reach, and spend the holiday that way. A good thing is also planning a potluck with others who may be experiencing similar feelings. So if you know of anyone who is experiencing some sort of difficulty during the holiday season, a good way might just be like, hey, come over with my family and I, or if you're in the situation where you can be like, do you want to do anything? Let's create something and let's do it together. Um, create new memories. Creating new memories also brings about good feelings, good emotions. Doing something new that you've never done before. That is another great thing to do. Next slide. Uh, be good to yourself. Um, yeah, if you have the means, if you have the means, don't credit card, none of that. If you got the means, make it happen. There's a there's a lot of good sales during the holidays, Black Friday, Amazon, Five Below, Cyber Monday. So shopping and buying things also elicits good emotions, good feelings. That's why some people are addicted to it. But that's be good to yourself. Maybe it's so also in being good to yourself, it might be just sleeping in if you can do that on that morning. It might be just taking a little bit of extra time in your grooming process during the day. Maybe you're like in a rush in the morning all the time, getting ready. Maybe today's like, okay, I'm gonna shine my bald head. I'm gonna, straighten my hair. I was looking at my dad. I was like, what can he do differently? Maybe. Uh, maybe when you're done, when you're lining up your beard, taking a look. Maybe try something different, a little spa, lotion, conditioner, something different. Be good to yourself. Take care of yourself. Whatever that looks like, if you have the means for a massage, those are excellent. Take a bath. Bath salts, Dr. Teal's bath salts, amazing. Spray some lavender spray. Hot baths and essential oils. If you've never done that, that's great as well. Um, but just any way that you can be good to yourself, do that during the holiday season. Um, so the next one, focus on today, not yesterday. So this one is a good one because during the holidays, um, depending on who you are and maybe your family dynamic, um, sometimes when you are around certain loved ones, um, you can become who you were and not who you are. You can become who you were and not who you are, right? Um, right? So becoming who you were, it could be something as simple as when you're back with your family, maybe you're back in the I'll use myself as an example, daughter role, granddaughter role, niece role, right? Like you get back and they like automatically put you here. And it's like, I am grown. I have been doing all this. And you get back and sometimes it's fine, right? But other times it's not a good place to it's not a good feeling, right? Or you go back and maybe your family or your friends are just not who you are anymore, right? And you go back and you become who you were and not who you are. And sometimes you find yourself reverting to old childhood patterns and um, find yourself reverting to old childhood patterns with family members. Um, when that happens, it's good to try and take a minute and remember who you are now. Also, remember that it's not necessary to play the same role as you did when you were younger, even if others are encouraging you to do so by their behaviors. If there is someone at a get together who knows who you are today, make sure you reach out to them and draw them into your interactions, because that can help ground you. So maybe you bring a friend who knows who you are today, right? You bring them. It's a good balance of having someone who knows who you are and kind of not trying to revert back to the old whatever that was for you. Doesn't necessarily have to be bad. But if in a context when it kind of brings you away from who you are today, it's always good to have some sort of grounding, either taking a minute to step back. Maybe maybe your kids or your spouse, them being there, kind of that keeps you grounded in who you are today because that's who you see every day, right? You go back home to Texas, it's a whole different world. You're no longer like that. So that's that point. Yes.
Thank you. You're very handy. I just want to say something in reference to number 2 on focus on today, not yesterday. Sometimes it can be very beneficial to focus on yesterday in this way. Um, when you think about the wonderful memories that you've had with your parents, with your friends, your family and loved ones, sometimes it helps you in a very positive way
Yeah.
where you're not in a good space right now and you're feeling blue or whatever the losses. But when you stop and take the time to reflect on all the wonderful times and blessings that you've had together, it brings a smile on your face and it lightens your heart. And it helps you to get through that today by thinking on all of the positives of yesterday.
Absolutely. The positives of yesterday can also serve as a big motivator as well. Reflecting on that um, motivates you of what you're going through today, or just help you to remember the good times of what was yesterday and how you might have brought that into your today. Um, and the last one, throwing guilt out the window. So for that, any things that make you feel bad, make you feel sad, bring about negative emotions that are being placed on you and not ones that you have brought about for yourself, um, throw that out the window. Or putting like unreasonable pressure on yourself during this holiday season, um, throw that out the window. Your Like I said earlier, like this season will pass. This is not forever. So don't place emotions on yourself that prolong the season or prolong the situation that you're going through, and that can be easier said than done. Absolutely, that's a process to being able to comfortably throw some things out of the window. Um, but it's important to remember that your thoughts directly influence your feelings. So if you are thinking negative things or depressing things or unreasonable things or have these high expectations, it will impact your feelings. So whether it makes you more sad or makes you more anxious or makes you more frustrated, um, think positive things, think good things. Um, and like what I've been talking about making a plan and talking to someone and reflecting on your feelings. It's always the number one thing that I can also leave you with is also whatever you plan and whatever you prepare with, also to go to God with your plan and what your preparation is, right? Whatever that looks like, you can plan it all yourself. You can think it through yourself. You can talk to someone, you can talk to a professional, but always go to God with it as well. Tamika?
how do you go about dealing with the young people? Like I have teenagers and I know they still grieve, but they grieve in a different way. And as a parent, you try to recognize that they're still grieving,
Mhm.
but it's challenging, especially if you're grieving over maybe the same person or just grieving in general. How do
Mhm.
you handle that? Or what are the key things to focus on?
With your kids
Like with your kids
or
or with kids in
teenage
general? Yeah.
kids or teens in general. So the first thing I'll always say is try to talk to them about it. So they may not want to. That's also a characteristic of teenagers. They don't want to talk about it. And it's sometimes it may be too that they don't have the words to describe how they're feeling because they're younger too and they haven't gone through many life experiences. So I always try to get it out of them, of like the teenage demographic. Um, Another good thing to do with them is the tip that I made about creating new memories. Um, so doing something maybe to honor the person that you guys have lost together, right? Maybe writing a letter to to a loved one. That's a great thing to do, or just journal, and just write if as if they were here, so you can get out all those emotions. Um, but doing something to honor the person is always a great way, because you might not have to talk about how I'm feeling now that they're gone, but you can spend time just reflecting on kind of the good feelings that you do have with that person, and then creating a new memory to kind of honor that the fact that they're gone. That's a great way of kind of dealing with grief, um, during the holiday season, finding a way to honor. And I would put it on them. How would they want to do it? What do they um see? Maybe whoever they lost loved, I'm going to say football again or whatever. you know um Maybe say, maybe if they come up like, next year we should go to a game, right? And that's how we'll honor whoever. It's creating a good memory, but also having them remember the person they lost in a nice way. Who else?
I wanted to ask, I don't know if you touched on it when I ran out, when it says number 3 to throw the guilt out the window. How do you do that?
So like I was saying, that's easier said than
Then
done.
done?
But um I think that ties back to what I was saying about your thoughts and the
Mhm.
things that you tell yourself, or the expectations that you have about things, and placing that on yourself, and that directly impacts your mood, so that makes you feel guilty.
Mhm.
um so you have to start kind of reframing those statements that are causing you to feel guilty. So um oh, a guilty statement. I am not a good mom this holiday season because I did not buy my children the iPhone Pro 11 Max for $1,500, right?
And
Some people, right? Some parents is like, well, I ain't got it, so that's just how it's gonna be. I don't care how you feel,
yes,
right? And you move on, right? But then there are other parents who carry guilt that they feel
Mhm.
like
I know that's right.
yeah, but that and it's great, right? That we can laugh and be like, oh well, that ain't gonna happen. My kid already knows they gonna get what I give them. Whatever, ain't no Santa Claus. But then there are some parents who have extreme guilt over the fact that they feel like they cannot give their child what they wanted. And it might not be an iPhone 11 Max. It might be they really need a computer for school and I can't give them a computer, right? And so they place that guilt on themselves. But part of reframing those statements that you say to yourself, I am still a good mother, even though I couldn't do this for my child because I work very hard to make sure that their needs are met. And start telling yourself that language to try and push out the negative that's causing you to feel guilty, right? So you can do the extreme of not even dealing with the feelings and being like, well, that's on them. I'm not doing it. I'm good. I don't feel guilty about that at all. Or not that either is better, but like, or you can try and reframe some of the things that are making you feel guilty. And then once you start reframing things, then that's becomes how you think. And then it becomes easier to not feel guilty about things because what you're telling yourself is more positive than negative. And sometimes the way you reframe things might not even seem realistic. It
Mhm.
might seem like um maybe you might even feel like you're not being real with yourself, right?
Mhm.
You're just making these statements. But sometimes it's better to put that out there in your
Mhm.
mind because well, let me not go there, but it's a good thing to put that out there so that you can train your brain to think more positive.
Mhm.
And so as a result, you feel better, right?
Mhm.
So
Here's the other thing I
yeah.
wanted to ask because I have a friend that struggling financially, but she brought her child this gift that was way out of her range. And I think it was just as important for me to know how to respond because in and of myself, I wanted to say, have you lost your mind? Point blank. But I knew I could not say that because I knew this person was struggling physically and mentally, but I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So I said nothing.
Okay. So I think for well, so it's about was this person telling you this just for you to listen?
Mm.
Or were they telling you this for you to respond? And
Mhm.
did you feel the need to respond because you had such a reaction to it? Or did you feel the need to respond? This isn't just in general, right? When
Mhm.
having communication. Am I responding because it's important for me to say this to you? Or am I responding because this is going to help you? Or I think it's going to help you? Because the person might not want help, right? Because they might still do it. Because I see that. So I recently started a new job working with low income alternative school children. And a mother was talking about her daughter's prom and buying her daughter some YSL heels that are $995 for her prom, right? Right? This is a mother. Like I said, I work at an alternative school with low income children who get all free services in Washington D.C. because that's how they do. But this mother is going to buy her daughter $995 shoes for prom because the little girl feels like I need these $995 shoes. And we're sitting here in like an IEP meeting, right? Clearly, your daughter needs more supports. That's why we're here. And this is what you're doing. And in my mind, I'm just like, do you not see everything else in your life or the priorities that you have for this child going on? But then it's like, this is me, right? And this is how I feel. This is how I was raised. This is my mindset. Whatever's bringing this mother to this point, that may be a conversation. Like, why do you feel the need to do this for your child? Like, is there something else the child could need? Or what else do you think you could maybe better do with the money? Like these are some things that could possibly happen. But that I've learned that is like sensitive, right? What parents do for their kids is what they do for their kids. And so you got to think about like that could be a hard conversation to have, adult or not. So yeah, mom, you were next.
and then they probably have to go on until 11, 12, 1. So that's how I was going to the window. It's still something that I struggle with because we are people pleasers.
Like I said, it's easier said than done. It takes some build up to make decisions that are good for ourselves. And just that statement, like thinking about yourself first is sometimes the hardest thing to do, but it's so important because if you don't take care of yourself, people will move on. People will do what they have to do. Um, but it's easier said than done. Yeah.
Oh, well, my comment that I'm making is, and I think we kind of covered the spectrum of anxiety, stress, whether it's brought on, whether you bring it on yourself, or it's grief, loss, and all these feelings you feel around the holidays. Some of the stuff you just don't even have to take on. So it's you. It's you getting over self. And whatever your selfish motivation may be. And if you're just going to focus on the emotion of what you feel and how you feel, you have to identify what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, go down memory lane with it, resolve it, let it go. And you have to get to a point of forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for feeling guilt for what you're feeling because it's real and you're human. And sometimes as you live and go through real life situations, you learn how. Sometimes just getting together with a person, just talking, not even talking about their problem, just talking and enjoying the company is so therapeutic for a person. They go back feeling lifted. So just like I know you had one of the comments on your plan was get together with people with like feelings, with similar feelings. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not. Because if everybody in the room has these feelings, you kind of need somebody that's going to lift it up. And one of the things, me and another friend, because we all were widowed at a certain point, we would go to certain meetings, and then when we come back, we feel like, uh, I'm not going back to that no more. Because see, you had to realize you're carrying the weight of everybody that's grieving in the group, and you go back home and you feel like, oh. So I would say, even if you see a person and you know they're going through grief, maybe invite that one person, and you're in a lifted up, spiritually lifted up moment in your life. Then you and that person sit and talk, or you enjoy an activity with that person, and you both will be lifted in the end. That other person won't bring you down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Were you?
I think I forgot now what I was going to say. But my sister there was very, very, very on target with it. I think of it, I'll ask for the mic again. Just excuse this senior moment.
Well, before we wrap up, does anyone else have any feedback or suggestions, like how Ms. Darlene gave? That was very helpful about what you think. This is just like something small and brief, life experiences or.
That should be in the forefront. I mean, we have to remember that God, even if we don't get to the point in our interacting with people that the solution comes, we've already prayed about it, and at the end of all of our talking, God still knows what we're going through, and He'll handle it in His own way in time.
Prayer is most important.
No, I was just saying, if we could maybe, I'm asking Cleo, if we could maybe have another seminar on what it means to be good to yourself. because as Christians, we hear all the time, die to self, die to self, die to self. And then when you say, be good to yourself. And a lot of times, no, but isn't that what we preach? Yeah. So then, but then we hear, be good to yourself. Yeah. So I need to know. Yeah, I need to know how to do that balance. Because my daughter is always, I always say, I will never buy a dress for $100. She's like, why? Would you buy a dress for me for $100? I was like, yeah, but I don't have to wear $100 dress, so I don't feel. And she always, I have that problem on how to be good to myself and not feel guilty about it. Because in my mind, I always have, you put self last, you die to self, etc., etc. So we need a seminar on that. Cleo.
That's right. You're not sitting close enough.
I'll just make my point real quick. I was gonna say one thing that may be nice is as a church family, these points are really important. Maybe if we see someone in the church who may not have a family, or we're aware of the fact that maybe someone in their family passed away or that they're alone during a holiday, if we have the ability, we can invite them like, hey, okay, this year I'll invite that person. Like you mentioned, maybe one person at a time, depending on what they're going through, and invite them over and hey, let's just have, come with our family and eat and talk. And I think that could be nice too as a community.
Yeah, definitely. People should take that charge and do that.
I think also to kind of piggyback on what Harold said in from a different twist, sometimes it's easier in our environment, but sometimes we're in a position where we can't mention prayer, and we have to be cognizant of that. So at the same time, we have to, I guess, as Christians, ask the Lord to give us a different way to go about it without saying it, even to the point I've been in conversations where the person who wasn't somebody that prayed that said, why don't we pray about it? So it wasn't on me. So yeah, they will come. So I think that's something that we can, and this may sound crazy. That's also sometimes we need to do that amongst ourselves because it's so easy to say, let's pray. It's like a scapegoat. You ain't did nothing else. I'll pray for you. That person may need more than prayer. And God may have put us in a position to do what that person needs.
It's- I got you.
Recall is blessing. I wanted to go back to your comment about the lady who wanted to buy the $900 shoes. And I think one of the things that we may be guilty of is wanting the best for our kids, but also we need to be realistic with them. They need to know the plight that you're in. They need to understand $900 shoes are out of the question. Now, if she's a senior and she's going to her prom, I take it she might have been old enough to get a job. And, she can support her own extravagant habits or at least do something towards it. But if our children really truly understood what we go through and the struggle to try to educate them, to teach them, to do the right things and patterns in front of them, they would be more understanding.
Absolutely. I definitely think as a parent, discussing with your children, just kind of like you don't have to go all to the nitty gritty, but definitely making them aware of the finances of like what happens, the sacrifice that occurs in your household. It's important. I can say personally, I was always a child that was more cognizant of my parents' finances, right? I'm like, I'm in Adventist school, so are my siblings. We lived in this house, like we can't be, we can't, right? But then like I might have like my brother who might be like, well, they decided to have us, so they gon' they gonna take care of me, like regardless. Yeah.
Well, my last comment about some of this is just parenting 101. And sometimes you think when you buy the most expensive or whatever happening, whatever thing, that your child is just going to be so wonderful and lovely and all this stuff, right? They're not. Because I remember one Thanksgiving get together that we were at a friend's house, and we all went around the room and said the things we were thankful for and what was the best memory that you had, you know. So my son's gonna say, well, I remember when my mother used to take me to the playground. And she'd always say, I'm not gonna get you no ice cream because he never wanted to leave. And I was like, look, I'm not getting you, you're not getting no ice cream. So come on. And but he said, and she always used to get me the ice cream. This was his memory. He didn't say nothing about tennis shoes and all this different other kind of stuff. That was the memory for him. So sometimes you just gotta forgive yourself
Yeah, forgive yourself.
and do the best you can.
Absolutely. Okay, yes. We gotta wrap
This
this
is the
up.
last. This is the wrap up. I can remember when I was 10. My mother was a parent of 5 children, single mother, and my brother wanted a leather coat. He wanted that leather coat so bad. My mom, I remember to this day, she made $25 a week. The coat was $25. She struggled until she brought him that coat. He wore the coat to the pool hall, came back home without a coat. All that hard work. But the one thing it taught all of us. We see my mom cry. I mean, she whipped him and cried, and she whipped him and cried. But I still remember that you know what, everything a child wants is not always good for them.
She acknowledged me. The thing about it, we sat down and listened to the preacher preach this morning. God is all good. I could sit back and say right now that God is good because my daughter has grown up. I remember when she wanted to go to Pine Forge. We couldn't afford it because she was TA, so we said, TA is right here. Where are you going to Pine Forge? When we brought the news and told her that we cannot send it to Pine Forge, she stayed in our dining room and she wept bitterly. We thought she was going to have a stroke because she was trying to calm her down. But anyway, we were just joking with her. Yeah, but the thing about it is that we just did not want to sell the Pine Forge and waste our money. So, so the thing about it, we said, well, we don't want to because we can't afford it. But now she's now teaching other kids, or teaching us how to not to let our kids have their own way because they will come to us with demands that we cannot really much afford. So that was a blessing to see that she is repeating what we were trying to teach her then. And I have to say praise God for that because he's good. That even that little lesson that we taught her, she might not have gotten it then, but now the Lord has opened up avenues that she could be able to impart that to others.
All right. Well, I hope you guys were able to walk away from here with something. Um, Thank you all for participating and your conversation and your stories. Um, it touched me, so hopefully someone else was touched as well. So we're going to go ahead and pray to wrap this up. The Heavenly Father, thank you again for another opportunity of prayer. Thank you for the opportunity to have another Sabbath where we could come together with our fellow church members, church family, and spend time with you and also spend some time learning some practical ways to go throughout this upcoming holiday season. Thank you for your love and your blessings and all your continual grace and mercy that you bestow upon us each and every day. We love you and we thank you. And when the time comes, please help us all to go to heaven and meet you. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. You need to
Real life one. We play
So you don't go.